just want to welcome some of our most exciting and most informative and experienced partners that we have with Side today. So we're going to kick off this forum with a lesson on lessons experienced entrepreneurs can teach. So I'm Kathy Trevino, and I'm the managing broker of Texas, but I'm going to go ahead and pass the mic over today so that we can go ahead and get a quick introduction from our founders here. Let's start with Michelle Kim. Michelle's a founder of Mosaic Real Estate. So give us a little bit of insight who you are and what you do.
Well, hi everyone, I'm Michelle Kim, a founder of Mosaic Real Estate, one of the first founding partners of Side, actually. And I am an entrepreneur, also a mother of 3, have had my license since 2005, and have taken a solo single agent business to a very fast growing team. We now have 15 associates, and we are trending year to date over $205 million in transaction sales volume year to date. So it's been a phenomenal year. So
wow.
Yeah, it's been really great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And what part of California are you, or do you serve?
I'm sorry, San Francisco.
Wonderful. All right. Thank you, Michelle. We really appreciate getting the opportunity to know you a little bit better. And Marcus Miller, founder of Helm Real Estate. Let's hear a little bit about your background.
Marcus Miller, San Francisco founder, along with Marlena Miller. So it's a woman, veteran, Latina-owned company based out of San Francisco. So we got the triple threat there. I've been a licensee and been in the business since 2001. We found with Side Helm Real Estate in March of 2018. In fact, right a year and a half after Michelle started. And so we're in the top 12 partners of the group. Our crew is here as well, and we are pushing towards 100 million, and it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm the Navy veteran, just for reference.
Woo. Awesome. Thank you for your service. And we also have Zaid Hanna he's the founder of Real Estate 38. Zaid, can you give us a little bit of background on you?
Hey everyone, Zaid Hanna, San Jose, California, about 50 miles south of you guys, right? Like you're both in San Francisco. Yeah. I onboarded, it was end of 2019. Been licensed since 2004. Father of 2, husband to 1. And it's great. We have 5 associates. We work as a team. Everybody works as one, as a checklist. And we are at almost 200 units, 240 in volume, hoping to close to 300 by the end of the year.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Congratulations. And like I mentioned, I'm Kathy Trevino. I'm the managing broker of Texas. Also a partner with Side, along with my husband, Rick Trevino, with Loyal Texas Properties. Been in the industry now for 24 years and started with Side back in December of 2019. We're currently at 25 partners in Texas and growing, so catching up. Hopefully one day we'll be like California. That's our goal. But no, I just want to thank y'all for taking the time today to be with us. And so we're going to dive right in. And let's look at some, I wanted to ask just a few questions. And our goal of this session is to uncover some insights as to how you've all made it so successful in your careers. So let's talk about one of the walls that you had to overcome that changed your business from good to great. And we'll just start off with Marcus.
Good to great. That's an excellent question. So I think that one of the things I've learned is that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And so my practice, and I founded in 2005 Business Network International, and I have a diversity of, or a diversified portfolio in the ways that business comes to me. And that networking, taking great care of clients and giving to community, giving in each engagement with your clients is the fundamental aspect of going from good to great in my book, because the more people know you care about them, it's not about how much you know about real estate, it's about what you are bringing to the table and what value you are bringing to each transaction, which should be the basis of how you engage people, right? Is how are you taking care of them? It's sort of the what's in it for me. Well, put yourself in their shoes and deliver on those commitments, those promises. And if you take exceptional care of people, if you live by a giver's gain perspective, then you can go from good to great. If you're a transactional agent and you're counting numbers, and all it's about is taking care of getting to 100 units or 50 units, I think that's the wrong focus. No offense, Aid, because you have great volume. But it's more, in my book, it's more about
Transaction
taking...
junkie, buddy. Transaction junkie.
Yeah.
Yes.
So to me, I budget on the basis of taking care of families. So that's how I'm taking exceptional care of them.
I definitely can agree with that. Michelle, you want to hit on what's made you, what you could think about from going from good to great?
I think that when you say good to great, there's two things that I would say that come to mind. I agree with Marcus in that it's not just transactional, and our tagline for Mosaic Real Estate is turning transactions into relationships, right? So it's very relationship-based. Once we get to know the client, we've closed transactions with them, helping them, go from being a first-time home buyer, and it could be whether a doubt buyer, which is, a first-time home buyer in San Francisco. We've helped plenty of those, and we've also helped first responders buy homes with the Mayor's Office of Housing and their down payment assistance program. So there's that aspect of it, and of course, being a part of that journey, which is huge, and I'm super passionate about that, is being a part of the journey of buying a home, selling a home, upgrading because you've had 1 to 2, 3 children. And that's such a beautiful journey that we are a part of, and I feel really grateful to be a part of that. I think making sure that you have that connection with the client goes from good to great. I have turned away about 7 associates that wanted to join the team that I felt were not aligned with our core values, and I think that that's really important. I think culture is very important for my team, and I think that building a culture based on a community feel that's like a family, because we all genuinely enjoy each other's company. We all actually spend a lot of time outside of work together. And so I think that took our business from good to great, because it only takes that one cancer to really take you down like a domino effect. So I've been very selective about growing the team, and I think that is the other aspect of going from good to great. I do feel that one other thing I did that just crossed my mind is that I went from being a solo agent, and be it that I was a top producing agent, it took me several years, even when I started building my team, to recognize that I needed help. Help meaning operations, like I needed a full-time assistant, I needed a director of operations, whether it could be even a part-time virtual assistant to help with, organizing the CRM. All of that comes with time, so you have to invest money in your business to take it to the next level, and that was the last point that I was going to say, that it went from good to great for that part, which took me a little while to really, understand that that's what I needed. Yeah.
For sure. I know that's hard for many of us when we're growing, is to really figure out what we need to do,
Or
what we
when.
can, how we can change our whole way of doing business. And Zay, did you want to add anything?
Of course. I'll actually open up differently. Guys, you're sitting among some very high producers. So I came from this coaching organization, without dropping any names, where the culture was, let's give back. Let's ask as many questions as possible. So if you're not sitting next to somebody you don't know, you're doing the wrong thing. Spread off, talk to each other, see where your pain points are, and share where you're at, because I promise you, they're either behind you, next to you, or ahead of you. Hopefully ahead of you so you can learn a thing or two. So that is one thing, what side is preaching, right? Like, why do they have to put us on the panel? We don't get paid anything for this, but we would love to give back. So in the spirit of giving back, I'll focus a little bit more on the technical side of it. I'm a DC, so if you speak disc, I'm high D, high C, very unique personality. I want to drive and conquer the world, and my C says, nope, you're going to figure it out before you do it. So I have this internal struggle. So the C side of me, from good to great, we took the entire processes, 68 units in 1 year without a TC, without an assistant, because I could do it better than anybody else. We went from taking, if we do one thing twice, it's got to go on the paper, checklist. So if you're starting and you don't know where to start and it's too much because it's controlled chaos, that's what escrows are, I would literally look at your week, write out your schedule, and anything that you feel should go to your assistant, start putting it in the checklist. And literally start with the client called all the way to the gifting, and past that, put it in the checklist. So we have 320 on the listing side, 280 on the buy side. Now, granted, we have associates, we have assistants, we have a buyer concierge that writes the contracts for our buyer's agents so they don't make any mistakes. We have somebody that follows up to survey the client to make sure that nothing is dropped, and that's how you scale. So my thing to you is that start with an Excel sheet, whatever form you use, and start writing your processes. That's what got me to not working on the weekends, being done at 7, 8 o'clock sometimes, sometimes 7, but still do almost 250 units in 1 year with a team of 5. So you gotta put your processes in place. That'll get you to free up your mind. Don't leave it in your mind. That will bring you down. You gotta free up your mind to say, okay, what things that I gotta work on the business for you to invest in the business. Otherwise, transactions will always call you. So that's what kind of got me to.
Love it. I love it. All right, Marcus. Looking back at your career, what is the #1 risk that you took and that you're glad you took? And can you walk us through that process and why you made that decision?
I remember when I took my licensee test, one of the statistics is that 85% of licensees fail in the first 2 years. So if you're in this room, you're a risk taker. And in fact, you should really, that's a wall. To me, that's a wall. Every day, the way I look at it, every day I wake up unemployed and I have to earn my keep, right? Every day, because we're 100% commission-based. You have to be successful for the client, they get paid, then you get paid. So if I wake up so it's a little bit of an inspiration. Every day I wake up and I'm like, okay, I'm unemployed. How am I going to earn my keep? So the wall part is not being scared of that. If you embrace that and think about, wow, these people really have a high level of trust, high level of confidence, and I'm getting calls from people because I've got all these different channels I try to principally work by referral. So I've got all these different channels where people are looking for me. And so if you wake up every day thinking, wow, okay, how am I going to make a difference in my client's world and get employed and continue this? So overcoming that fear, right? And by the way, I came into real estate by virtue of the .com bomb hitting. All of a sudden I was laid off. I had a VP of sales and marketing job, and I was pretty comfortable, and I was like, oh shoot, I have to reinvent myself. Well, I had a number of people that I knew in real estate, and I always really appreciated their quality of life and their autonomy and everything that they enjoyed in life. And I was like, hey, what are you guys doing and how are you doing it? And sure enough, I don't know if John Woodruff, who also is the founder of Athos, he and I worked with him as an assistant starting out, and then we became partners. And for the first 6 months, I was working for sandwiches and coffee because the .com bomb persisted through the fall. And so you have to be, all of us are risk takers. All of us have to be brave. And one of the things that I would say, and being a Navy veteran, former submariner, we were called the elite of the fleet. This is the elite amongst the realtors in our market. And you need to know it, you need to live it, and you need to believe it, and then go out and execute on that. So, because that's where we are, and that's a very privileged place. And if every day you wake up thinking, okay, how am I going to earn my keep and overcome this wall of concern? I have those same voices that tell you, oh no, I can't make those calls because how about if they say no? Or whatever it is that holds you back. This conference is sort of that place where you get to talk not only with yourself, but also with all of, as I agreed with Zaid, that you should network. This is a great place to network and advance the network you have so you can do more and take care of more people. I'll leave it with this. This network, for instance, if Jeff Rosa, is he in the room? I called Jeff Rosa, who's out of San Diego. He's also a founding partner down there. And I had a client who won't work with anyone else, but they wanted to write an offer this afternoon on a property that had multi-offers on the table. Within 1 hour, I had this conversation with Jeff Rosa, who is with Market Real Estate, founder of Market Real Estate, and he called the listing agent, put together the offer for my client, who I know from working in San Francisco and Southern California, and we got ratified. In fact, I need to buy him a drink. So leverage your network, and also don't be, every day be driven to do the best work you can and help advance your client's interest.
That's great. I love it. All right, Zaid, we'll go with you. What's the number one risk that you've taken?
We are all entrepreneurs, and we think we're so important because the client calls us, and without us, they can't survive, and we just feed ourselves. My coach once told me, he said, Zaid, anybody can do what you're doing. In fact, anybody with a little bit more hair can do it better than you. He was right. The biggest risk was, how do we build a team? How do we hire? Where do I start? Should we get 10 agents and see where that takes us and fine, we'll piss off you clients? Or do we adapt 4 W-2 employees and be responsible for $250,000 on a yearly basis in salaries? Bay Area, it's not fun to have W-2 employees. But which route do you take? So it's trusting that you will continue to produce that much more because your team is going to free up your time and you'll be held responsible. I mean, you could wake up with a cold and you're still going to prospect because you don't have a choice. So personally, every time we hire someone, I am responsible for their success. If they fail, I failed them. Yes, they have bad habits, but I should have identified that ahead of time. So whenever we bring on a team member, they got to fit in that seat in that bus that's identified. Again, if you speak desk, if they're associates, they have to be an IS. If you hire a D, they will leave you. I promise. It's inevitable. They know it better than you do. And that's fine if they're not under your team, they're under your brokerage, which is perfect. If they're assistants, hire SCs or CSs, preferably SCs. Cs don't pull the trigger. They need to perfect it, and that sometimes gets in the way. So the biggest risk that I took was now we have about 8 W-2 employees, and we're still growing. But the idea is to say, hey, this is going to free up my time to actually go and do more production per agent. And the goal for every associate, they have to do 2 a month. Otherwise, they're not part of the team. So we give them leads, and they have to produce their own leads. And we just hired a sales manager that was a little bit scary, I got to tell you, because, again, we want to feel important, and we want our agents to come to us because we're so cool. But at the end of the day, it's all about them. You are making a commitment to say, I will bring that person or that group or that team, commit to them. Again, just like the philosophy that Said has, and that's why we're all here, is that's the biggest risk for me, was trusting that somebody else will take care of my client.
I think we all have that problem. It's part of being in real estate. We want to take control and we don't want to delegate it to someone else because no one can do it better than us, right?
Yeah, it's the ego. Take the ego.
For sure. All right, I'm going to flip the question a little bit on Michelle here. So on the flip side, what's the one thing that you would have done different? So we all talked about the things but what would you have done different in your career at this stage in the game? And please just talk us through it.
Right. So I am one of those types of people that have no regrets in anything I do. I do feel like, probably just to answer your question, I'm a bit of a control freak, and I'm just being fully transparent here. And as a solo agent, I was one of those types of people that's like, I can do 30 million by myself. Why do I need an assistant? I can handle it. Plus, I handle it probably better than the assistant. Well, I think the biggest risk for me was not only, number one, launching Side, when back then there was no name. It was just me, Guy, Ed, Hillary. Gary was my sidekick. Where are you, Gary? He's there. And we had Corey and like one other person as a part of Side, and we were all of us in the middle of this big office on Brandon Street. That was probably the biggest risk, but then also allowing yourself to delegate tasks to other people is a huge risk. If you're the type of person that's a perfectionist, you want to make sure everything is done right, it's so hard to allow someone else to have that control. And you know that it's never going to be like you, obviously. I found now that I have 3 full-time salaried employees plus a part-time assistant, and I still feel like the 4 of them can't do it the way I would want to do it. So it's just, that is a huge risk that you have to take. But not everyone is wired the way we are, right? And everyone's wired differently. Hank always said to me, you're just wired differently. Like, and I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you're like a million miles a minute. You've got your mind thinking about all these different things. And it's true, I am. And Gary's always said, can we just pull it out of your brain and put it in a manual? No, we can't do that. It's just the way that our minds work. But with that said, I feel like the biggest risk was being a part of one of the founding partners at Side and launching this when before there was no name to Side. And B is actually allowing yourself to delegate tasks to other people, so hiring people to take on some of the responsibilities that you normally do on your own. So yeah, but no regrets. Everything happened for a reason, and look at where Side is now.
Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, yeah.
It's truly amazing. Wonderful. Do anyone you guys want to add to any of that? Maybe any of the regrets that y'all may have had, or do you have any?
Well, I have to admit that I joined Michelle and it's interesting, one of the things that comes up for me personally, and it came up in the social media presentation earlier, is it was a different language, but progress, not perfection, comes up for me. Because sometimes we're always, no, that's not good enough. But sometimes it's better, and one of the things that separates agents from going from good to great is answering the phone. Right. There's like fundamental things, or sending that email, or sending the presentation, or getting the moxie out to them, or just shooting over a screenshot of the current comps. It's not pretty, but here it is. Giving them something, working with something. And so progress, not perfection, has become sort of my mantra, because it's better to react and respond and get out there and move and take action than not. But I joined Michelle in being one of these kind of people that, and this is, I think leverage is a big component part, but I think that whether virtual or real, if you leverage who you are through an assistant, for instance, and I haven't adopted the disc, so I'm going to set up a one-to-one with you.
I'll be happy to meet with you.
But that holds, that science works, it works, and that's something I need to adopt because it's real. But getting an assistant, someone who actually literally can double your capacity to do work, to reach people, to respond. It may not be perfect when your assistant does it, but it's getting done, right? And if you have a virtual assistant who's doing part-time or full-time, guess what? You're doing 1.5 times more work or twice as much work. And that, I think, is the key to that transition from good to great. Going back to your first question.
Sure.
And guys, no plug for a virtual assistant, but I have no interest in a company called My Outdesk. So they're in the Philippines. $1,800 a month, and there's no contract, they can't sue you, EDD is not involved. So if you guys want to start with one, hell, take a risk on a high-end meal that you'll have in a weekend. It's $1,800 in California, that is. But one thing I would do differently is simply hire my wife sooner. She's not here, and Jay said we would have been happy to take her and left you at home. She's the sweet one. No, she's also the great brains behind the operation. It's true. She was able to step back and say, okay, here are the holes in the business. So the reason I'm saying that, if you're not married to that person, or that's not your brother, sister, or friend, whatever, seek that person. Meaning, again, going back to DISC, if you're a high DI, which most likely 70 to 80% of you are high DIs, meaning you're a business owner, you'll take a risk, but you're also a high influencer. So you love to connect, you love to talk, but then once you come down to the systems and the processes, you can't slow it down. So hire somebody like that ops manager to say, okay, where are the holes in the business, and have them take buy-in in the company. Do compensate them. Don't use them as a salary, so that way they can actually want to see your success instead of collect a check. So do it sooner than later, guys. Like, I wish I had done it, like 68 deals by myself. That's dumb. Don't do it. Please don't do it. But hire an assistant first, then hire ops manager, then bring in your sales production team, or bring them along the way, so that way you can actually scale, and scale tastefully. Don't bring 20 agents. I promise you, you'll get bad reviews. Like, that's the worst thing that could happen, right? Like, you could get bad reviews on Yelp, Zillow, whatever. Don't do that, but just do it tastefully, so that way you can get the right team, and you'll identify what your culture is. Sit down, write it. Core values, the culture, the mission, the vision statement, all of it. By the way, one person to do 10 things versus 10 people to do one thing will do it a lot faster. So you all together do it as one. So again, you have more buy-in from the team. So it's not yours, it's theirs as well.
I love that. It's amazing. Great advice. All right, so let's change it up a little bit. At this stage in the game, how do you balance work, life, family, just work-life balance? It's very difficult, especially right now in these times. So walk us through how y'all balance that. We'll start with you, Marcus.
So because I'm holding the microphone and Marlena is not, I can actually give myself a little cover. But actually, Zaid talked about 7 or 8 at night, and I think that's a challenge, right, in our business, in part because we're in a service-oriented business where we're doing really important work at the highest level at the most critical juncture of people's lives, right? Real estate is the biggest financial decision and transaction of these people's lives, and we get compensated incredibly well. So when a call comes in at 7 or 8, I'm often taking it. But I think compartmentalizing properly is really the key. And as Zaid pointed out earlier, being disciplined around your schedule, and you have business time, working on the business, working in the business, and then there's personal time. And you just have to really execute discipline, which is still a work in progress in my world. So to be honest, it does kind of, it infringes. But then on the other side, going back to quality of life and having autonomy, there's many times where I'm like, I want to take a nap, and I'm taking a nap, or I'm taking Friday afternoons off, or I'm not working this weekend, or I'm not working this day. So we have that kind of control and autonomy, so use it. But be disciplined, lay out your schedule, and create when you're working and when you're spending time with family and friends, and then be disciplined about that. And that is a practice.
Yeah, and I think that, that goes right along with what Zaid had said, and what basically all of you said, is by hiring someone to take on some of that, delegating some of those responsibilities will give you the opportunity to be able to have a little bit of more time for yourself. So, Michelle, how do you handle work-life balance?
You know, that question's really hard for me to answer because I'm a mom of 3 kids, and my eldest has just started high school, and I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. And I realized that, you know, I'm culturally being a female Asian, especially Korean woman, with a husband who's 10 years older than myself, who both of us were born in Korea. So culturally, we're very Korean in many ways. In the Korean culture, the male is the dominant one. So even though I run my business, I'm the CEO of Mosaic Real Estate, I've got a huge team, and I do all of these things and do an enormous amount of transactions. When I come home, my husband's the king. And it's just the way it is culturally. So I cook, I clean, I have to make sure my kids are bathed, I have to make sure that their homework is done. So it's a lot. So when you say to me, how do you balance that? It's just that I'm on all the time, all the way around the clock. But I did realize that at some point, my husband needed to become more, he's westernized in a sense that he's very obviously Americanized and all that, but culturally, because we're both born there, he's very Korean. But I do feel that at some point I had to say to him, I need you to help me more with the kids. There's no way that I can do all of this and cook and clean and do laundry and get them ready and bathe them and do this, soccer practice, whatever. I need you to be more involved. And that's when he said, okay. And I think communication was really kind of it was a turning point actually for our marriage, and it really allowed him to say, I will do this to help you because you are obviously on this path to grow your business. And our marriage has become so much closer and better since, just because we've never really talked about it. I feel like we're kind of having a therapy session right now, just saying this out loud. But we just kind of, at that moment, I had to say to him, look, you know, I just really need more help from you. And he was like, I will do it. So the work-life balance, I think communication is key. I think making sure that you ask for help, which was so hard for me because I'm the type of person that wants to do everything by myself. Even when Giri joined me to be a part of the launch of Side, he's like, tell me what you want me to help you with. Let me help you. And I was like, I don't know if I know how to do that because I really didn't know how to do that, you know? So delegating that was a huge turning point for me, and I think that, yeah, that's kind of all ties up.
Yeah, no, I can definitely relate, and I definitely understand, and having a support system is so very important for all of us, you know, to continue to do what we do. Zay, do you want to let us know how you handle work-life balance?
I'm glad my wife is not here. At least yours is sitting right there. She'll tell you I'm failing miserably. I disagree with that. No, I actually have this book, nightstand, that says how to be a better father and to be there for the kids. And I want to, high Ds, the problem with high Ds is we're constantly chasing. By the way, just to kind of do a quick survey, who's working 80 hours a week? 80. Oh, yeah. Bunch of you are. For sure. 40? Good for you. So the biggest struggle, as this will constantly move left and right, there is no right answer, there's no right place to be, and you constantly have to adjust because there are two sides to every coin, so is our business. When you do 36 units in 1 month, then you go down to 18 units the next month, the business dictates it, the time dictates it, and if you're not staffed properly, you'll have to show up to work. So the best thing to do, guys, is when you go home, do 2 things. 1, write out your perfect week. Whatever that perfect week may be for you, start with theme days. So I wake up every morning, 5:30. Trainer, 7 o'clock, I'm packing the kids' stuff, food, whatever. We drop them off, then 8:30 is work, all the way to about 5:30. Everything is scheduled. My team knows what time they can schedule an appointment for me or with me. So everything is scheduled, and I also have my theme days, because when you do this much production, you'll start dropping the balls on certain things. So on Monday, it's your VIPs. Tuesday, it's your seller updates. Wednesday, it's your leads that you got to follow up on, and so on. Right? Have a theme day. In fact, hire a coach as soon as possible. If you don't have one, you're not doing your business any justice, because look, they've been through these pains. So you have a theme day, a theme week, and you also stick to that schedule and don't go outside the boundaries. It could be a $5 million client. Stop it. It's not heart surgery. They're not dying tonight. You can take the call tomorrow. Text them. I'll connect with you first thing tomorrow morning. You'll be my priority. Now, do I take my own advice sometimes? Absolutely not. I still break the rules, I promise, but that's part of us. That's who we are as high Ds. But that's where you got to determine what's important for you. Do you want to make $5 million a year? That's fine. Okay, fine. Do it at 60 hours a week. Don't do it at 80. So when you set your goal and you say, I want to do X amount of dollars per year, I want to work this many hours per week. So what gets measured gets improved versus letting the business run your life. So I was constantly running with the business gets best of me, my family gets the rest of me. So I'm working on that. So when I go home, I have a little bit of energy left so I can actually enjoy my 4- and 6-year-old boys. So that's, yes, they're young.
Yeah, my kids are older. They know how to fend for themselves now.
Well, I love
They
that.
have an opinion now. At 6, they can tell you certain things. Yes,
It's a great age.
yes, thank you.
Marcus, you want to share with us a little bit more?
Well, Marlene and I are empty nesters, so when you graduate to that, all of a sudden all your time is freed up, although we're still providing housing for one of our daughter who's at the university. But I think as it relates, there's another thing that without a map, any road will get you there. So I like what Zaid has said, is really lay it all out, put it out there. What are you going to do? How are you going to do it? What is your program? What is your schedule? And the other part of that is that if you are going to start leveraging and bringing in human resources, like an assistant, like an operations person, like a marketing manager, then there is a known quantity to what your operation is, how it works, when you're taking appointments, when you're not taking appointments, when you're working on the business, when you're working in the business, when is your personal time. And if you delineate and map that out, and also map out, as we all do, where you're going, right? Going back to progress, not perfection. But if you have that in mind, then you start the year with a plan and a destination. And what you'll see is if you do that year after year, your program gets better and better. All of a sudden, you're more magnetic. You're drawing people towards you. Now there's people wanting to work with you. I think one of the things that I really appreciate about this panel and the whole side community is that we all have personalities. We all actually create cultures that allow for different types, going back to the DISC program and everything else, that allows us to even be working in the right place with the right team and the right group that is like-minded people in a specific culture. So that's actually what I would like to add.
Thank you for that. We really appreciate it. So we're running, we have one more question. So I'm going to we have a few minutes for each one. I'd like to ask, we all have dreams and ideas of where we want to be in the future. Looking at where you are now, is this what you had envisioned? If not, tell us what changed for you along the journey and why you decided to move in a different direction. So we'll start with Zaid.
1 minute and 50 seconds.
There
I
you
got
go.
you. I got you, girl. Okay, so you start with a car. Then you have a house. Wife, beautiful kids, health. And then you start dreaming bigger. It's far beyond what I've expected, girl. It is far beyond what I thought I would be today. And I'm grateful for that. But at the same time, we're always either staying here, going forward, or moving backwards. So my model is always moving forward. But moving forward, not in the sense, hey, let's buy another Porsche. Let's buy a bigger house. Let's buy another watch. It's not about that. It's about leaving a legacy in being able to leave better children. So the best thing you can do for the poor is not be one of them. And that's my model. To give back, to create better, I mean, we're housing how many agents? How many people are we feeding? Now, that's the American way, baby. I'm an immigrant. We came to this country with zero. The opportunity that you have here from Iraq, go look at the news, what kind of crap it's in right now. So to be here, to have this opportunity is far greater than what I've ever imagined. So we're always giving back, building whatever it is that you want to, but do it with integrity. You don't have to cut somebody in the way. That's my model.
Love that. Michelle, you want to let us know what your vision and what your ideas of your, the future when you came here, is it the same as what you envisioned?
I would say that I'm one of those types of people that I'm very family oriented, so I wasn't planning to have such a large team. I think when Guy asked me to bring on an associate, I'm like, okay, just one. Okay, one. I brought on the one, and then he's like, you need to grow your team. I'm like, really? And then I started to grow slowly. So I took a really long time in the beginning to grow the team. And now I have attention coming inward, which is amazing, but I'm having to make sure that I filter through the associates to make sure that the ones that are going to come join Mosaic are aligned with everyone else. And I think that I didn't envision myself to be such a large team doing the amount of business that we're doing in such a short period of time. So I'm very grateful to Side for that. I think that as a risk taker, like you mentioned, and being a part of this journey with this startup, I mean, I think all of us, right, we're all taking risks. We've all left brokerages that were branded, secured, whatever.
Who cares?
Yeah. So to my point is that, I feel like, could I have foreseen myself to be where I am at this point? I knew I would get there someday. I just didn't know it was going to happen so quickly. And that's one thing that I have to be grateful to Side for. The tools, the marketing, the back office support, the streamlining, really, the support is phenomenal. Yes, we have some growing pains, as any startup would. But at the end of the day, everything that we have here at Side is much greater than a Coldwell Banker, Remax, or even Compass. So we should all be grateful for that. Yeah.
Wonderful, thank you. Marcus, 2 minutes.
I love what Zaid said. The American dream lives and still exists, and we are a representation of that. If you don't buy into that and don't believe in it, then you may be in the wrong room. But I have to tell you, I work with, first off, I really appreciate Side's culture, and when Marlena and I did our Discovery Day, and Marlena turns to me and says, okay, we've been recruited by all of these other companies, we have never moved, but how soon can we start? I know that we're in the right company, right? And one of the cultural values that Side has is giving. I don't know if you picked that up in Guy's talk this morning, but he's a very generous person, and he shares the values, the culture, the giving aspects with all of us. And so I see Helm Real Estate, for instance, as a part of that culture, in that we want to share what Helm becomes with the people that join us in our crew, because we want to collectively move forward and have everyone succeed, have everyone advance. And if you take that piece with you and take it with you with respect to everything that these brilliant people have said with me up here, it's really about being empowered to make things happen, to give, to share, to take great care of your people, and to take care of community. Giving back is also a part of the gift that we have in this industry. And if you really do some of those things, business will come back to you. The universal truth of giving is that as you give, so it shall come back. And so the American dream lives here, and we're all living it. So.
Love that. Wow, what an amazing group of panelists that we have here today. And I just want to thank you all for sharing your thoughts, your vision, and where you're going. And thank you so much. And thank you all for joining us here today. Have a wonderful afternoon.